March 15, 2019. The Breakroom at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions in downtown Austin, Texas. What happened in those 4 minutes would not only destroy 28-year-old David Chen's confidence, but also ignite a fire that would eventually burn down everything his tormentors held dear. Because sometimes the people who laugh at your dreams become the very ones begging for your mercy. And David Chen was about to learn that revenge is a dish best served billion-dollar cold. David sat alone at the corner table, his homemade sandwich from yesterday's leftover Chinese takeout making the break room smell like soy sauce and disappointment. Around him, his co-workers at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions chatted about their weekend plans, expensive restaurant reservations, and new car purchases. He pulled out his laptop, a beat-up 2014 MacBook Pro held together with electrical tape, and opened his secret project. For 8 months, he'd been working 18-hour days, 9 hours at his soul-crushing junior marketing analyst job, then 9 more hours building what he believed would revolutionize small business automation. "Hey everyone, look at this!" The voice belonged to Brad Morrison, the company's golden boy account executive. David's blood ran cold as he realized Brad was reading over his shoulder. David's building an app called FlowSync, Brad announced to the entire break room, his voice dripping with mock excitement. "It's supposed to help small businesses automate their workflows." A circle formed around David's table, faces he recognized from monthly all-hands meetings. People he'd shared elevators with, colleagues he'd helped with their Excel formulas, all staring at his screen with varying degrees of amusement. "Oh my God, David," laughed Rebecca Martinez, the senior creative director. "You actually think you can compete with Salesforce? With that?" She pointed at his laptop like it was roadkill. I've been working on it for months," David stammered. "Small businesses need something simpler, more affordable." "Dude," interrupted Jake Stevens from IT, "my nephew could build something better than this in his high school computer class." The circle grew larger. David felt like a specimen under a microscope as more co-workers gathered to witness his public dissection. "Look at this amateur UI design," Rebecca continued, now fully in performance mode. "It looks like it was made in 2003. "And the name FlowSync?" Brad shook his head dramatically. "Sounds like a feminine hygiene product." The laughter erupted, like a volcanic explosion. David's cheeks burned with shame as he watched his co-workers, people he'd considered friends, turn his 8 months of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights into their afternoon entertainment. "David, seriously," said Monica Walsh, the HR director who was supposed to prevent this exact kind of behavior. "Maybe stick to what you're good at. You're great at making those PowerPoint presentations." David slammed his laptop shut. In the sudden silence, he could hear his heart pounding like a jackhammer against his ribs. "You know what?" he said, standing up slowly. His voice was quiet, but something in his tone made everyone lean in. "You're right. This is stupid. I should stick to PowerPoint presentations and being grateful for my $42,000 salary." He walked toward the door, then paused. "But just so we're clear, when FlowSync is worth more than this entire company, I want you all to remember this moment." As David walked out of that break room, his co-workers erupted in fresh laughter. "When pigs fly!" Brad shouted after him. What they didn't know was that David Chen was about to quit his job that very afternoon. What they really didn't know was that in exactly 18 months, Forbes would call him the overnight billionaire who revolutionized small business. And what they definitely couldn't have imagined was that their mockery had just created the most motivated entrepreneur in Austin, Texas. Because David Chen was done being laughed at. He was ready to be feared. That night, David Chen made 3 decisions that would either make him a billionaire or destroy his life completely. Quit his job, max out every credit card he owned, and bet everything on the app his co-workers had just humiliated him for. But what happened at 2:47 a.m. while coding in his studio apartment would change everything, because sometimes the biggest breakthroughs happen when you have absolutely nothing left to lose. David's studio apartment in East Austin looked like a tornado had hit a Best Buy. Empty energy drink cans formed pyramids on his desk. Pizza boxes stacked like Jenga blocks in the corner. His bedroom was just a mattress on the floor surrounded by whiteboards covered in flowcharts and code snippets. "You quit?" His mother's voice crackled through his phone speaker, a mix of Mandarin and English expressing her horror. "David, you have a good job, steady income, benefits." "Mom, I can't go back there, not after today. Your father and I didn't immigrate from Taiwan so you could throw away your career for some computer game." "It's not a game, Mom. It's a business automation platform that could help millions of small business owners." The line went dead. David stared at his phone, then hurled it onto the mattress. 3 hours later, David was still staring at his laptop screen. His bank account showed $2,147.33. His credit cards could give him maybe $15,000 more before he hit his limits. His FlowSync prototype was 60% complete, but he needed at least 4 more months of full-time development to make it market ready. 4 months with no income, no safety net, no plan B. He opened a new browser tab and typed how to apply for food stamps in Texas. Then he deleted it. Instead, he opened his code editor and got back to work. At 2:47 a.m., fueled by his 7th Red Bull and pure spite, David cracked the problem that had been haunting him for weeks. How to make the user interface so intuitive that even the least tech-savvy small business owner could set up complex workflows in under 5 minutes. The solution was beautiful in its simplicity. Instead of traditional menus and forms, FlowSync would use a visual drag-and-drop system that mimicked physical workflows. Need to automatically email customers when their order ships? Just drag the shipping notification icon and connect it to the order status box. "Holy shit," David whispered to his empty apartment. "This is it. This is actually it." By sunrise, David had built a working demo of his breakthrough interface. He needed to test it on real people. But who? His former co-workers? Hell no. Instead, he walked to Maria's Tacos, the small Mexican restaurant 3 blocks from his apartment. Maria Gonzalez, the owner, had always been kind to him, sometimes giving him extra salsa when she could tell he was having a rough day. "Maria, can I show you something? It'll take 5 minutes. 30 minutes later, Maria was practically bouncing in her chair. "David, this is incredible. You see how I'm setting up my catering reminders? I drag this, connect to this, and boom. It sends automatic texts to my catering customers 3 days before their event." "And how long did that take you to set up? Maybe 2 minutes? "David, I've been paying $200 a month for software that's 10 times more complicated than this." Word spread through the East Austin small business community like wildfire. The owner of the vintage clothing store down the street, the guy who ran the coffee roastery on the corner, the woman who owned the dog grooming salon. One by one, they came to David's apartment, drawn by Maria's enthusiastic recommendations. One by one, they left as excited early beta users, begging him to let them pay for the service. Within 3 weeks, David had 47 local businesses using FlowSync and a waiting list of 200 more, but success attracts attention, and attention isn't always welcome. On April 8, 2019, David received an email that made his blood run cold. "Mr. Chen, this is Brad Morrison from Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. We've heard interesting things about your little app. Perhaps we should meet to discuss a potential acquisition before you get in over your head. We'd hate to see you fail publicly. Best regards, Brad." David stared at the email for a long moment. Then he smiled, Because Brad Morrison had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He'd shown David that Pinnacle was scared, and scared companies make desperate moves. The meeting request from Brad Morrison wasn't a coincidence. Unknown to David, Pinnacle Marketing Solutions had been hemorrhaging clients to small businesses who were becoming more efficient with automation tools. His former employer wasn't interested in buying FlowSync. They wanted to crush it. And the plan they were about to execute would either destroy David completely or hand him the keys to victory. David chose to meet Brad at Radio Coffee on Barton Springs Road, neutral territory, public space, good Wi-Fi in case he needed to record the conversation. Brad arrived 15 minutes late, which David recognized as a classic power move from their corporate playbook. He wore his signature navy blazer and perfectly styled hair, looking like he'd stepped out of a Men's Health magazine. "David, look at you, man. You look tired." Brad's smile had all the warmth of a shark's grin. "Living the startup life, huh?" "I'm doing well, Brad. Thanks for your concern. Listen, I'll cut to the chase. Word around town is you've got some small businesses using this FlowSync thing. That's cute, really cute." Brad leaned forward, lowering his voice to what he probably thought was a conspiratorial whisper. "Here's the thing, David. Pinnacle wants to help you out. You're clearly in over your head. I mean, look at you. You're running this whole operation out of your apartment, right? But we see potential." He slid a folder across the table. "We're prepared to offer you $50,000 for all rights to FlowSync. Plus, and here's the generous part, we'll give you your old job back with a 5% raise." David opened the folder. The contract was already filled out, just waiting for his signature. $50,000. David's voice was carefully neutral. I know. It's probably more money than you've ever seen in one place. And honestly, it's more than your little app is worth. But we're feeling generous." David set the contract down without signing it. "What if I say no?" Brad's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. "David, let me explain how the real world works. Pinnacle has relationships with every major business in Austin. We've got lawyers, we've got marketing budgets, we've got connections you can't even imagine." He paused for effect. "If you don't take this deal, we'll launch our own competing product in 3 months. We'll price it at 50% less than whatever you're charging. We'll tell every business owner in town that FlowSync is unreliable, that you're just some amateur who got lucky. And in 6 months you'll be broke, back to living with your parents, and FlowSync will be a cautionary tale about what happens when small-minded people dream too big." David was quiet for a long moment. Then he started laughing. "What's funny?" Brad's eyes narrowed. "You think you're threatening me with failure?" David wiped his eyes. "Brad, I failed when I let people like you make me believe I was small. I failed when I spent 3 years making PowerPoint presentations for people who would never respect me." He stood up, leaving the unsigned contract on the table. "But this, building something that actually helps people?" Having Maria Gonzalez text me at 11 p.m. because FlowSync just automatically handled her entire weekend catering operation. "This isn't failure, Brad." "David, you're making a mistake." "No, Brad, you made the mistake. You told me exactly what Pinnacle is planning, which means I have 3 months to make sure that when you launch your competing product, nobody cares." As David walked toward the exit, he turned back one last time. "Oh, and Brad, thanks for the motivation. I was thinking small, maybe a few hundred local businesses. But now I'm thinking bigger, much bigger. You can't compete with us, David. We have resources you can't imagine." David smiled, and for the first time in his life, it was the kind of smile that made other people nervous. "You're right. I can't compete with Pinnacle Marketing Solutions." He paused at the door. "I'm going to obsolete you." That night, David made a phone call that would change everything. The person on the other end was Jessica Kim, a venture capitalist from Silicon Valley who had been following FlowSync's early user growth through industry networks. David, I've been waiting for your call. How quickly can you get to San Francisco? Why? Because I want to give you $2 million to destroy every company exactly like Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. David looked around his tiny apartment, then at his laptop where FlowSync was running smoothly for 312 small businesses across Texas. I can be there tomorrow. The war was about to begin, and David Chen had just found his army. 6 months later, David Chen stood in the elevator of the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, wearing a $3,000 suit and preparing for the meeting that would either make him the youngest billionaire in tech or prove that Brad Morrison was right about him all along. But the phone call he was about to receive would change everything. Because back in Austin, Texas, something was happening at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions that nobody saw coming. The 43rd floor of the Salesforce Tower offered a view that made David's old Austin apartment look like a shoebox. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see the Bay Bridge, Alcatraz, and the sprawling tech empire that had welcomed him with open arms. Jessica Kim sat across from him, her silver MacBook Pro displaying charts that would have seemed like science fiction 6 months ago. FlowSync now has 15,000 active business users across 12 states, she announced to the room full of Series A investors. Monthly recurring revenue hit $1.2 million last month, growing at 40% month over month. David's phone buzzed. Text from Maria. In Austin, David, FlowSync just automatically coordinated my entire Cinco de Mayo catering operation. 47 orders, 0 mistakes. You're a miracle worker. The question, continued Robert Chen, no relation, managing partner at Elevation Capital, is scalability. Can FlowSync maintain this growth rate when Salesforce, Microsoft, and others inevitably copy your features? David stood up. 6 months ago, this room full of venture capitalists would have terrified him. Now, he felt like he was exactly where he belonged. They can't copy what makes FlowSync special, he said confidently. It's not the features, it's the philosophy. He clicked to his next slide, a video testimonial from Marcus Thompson, who owned a small HVAC company in Detroit. Before FlowSync, I was spending 3 hours every day just scheduling appointments and following up with customers. Now, my whole operation runs itself. I'm making 60% more money working 30% fewer hours. But here's what our competitors don't understand, David continued. Small businesses don't want 500 features. They want 5 features that work perfectly. Every enterprise software company tries to be everything to everyone. FlowSync does 5 things so well that small businesses can't imagine living without us. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a number he recognized, Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. He declined the call. We're not competing with Salesforce for Fortune 500 companies. We're building the operating system for the 30 million small businesses in America that enterprise software has left behind. The room was silent. Then Robert Chen smiled. How much are you raising? 15 million Series A. I'll give you 20 million for 12% equity. During the break, David stepped onto the balcony to return Pinnacle's call. Brad Morrison's voice sounded strained. David, we need to talk. I thought we already did that, Brad. Listen, things have changed. We're struggling. A lot of our clients are switching to automated solutions. Your solution. David could hear the desperation that Brad was trying to hide. Our revenue is down 40% this quarter. We've had to lay off 12 people, including Rebecca from Creative. I'm sorry to hear that, Brad. Look, I know I wasn't great to you before. But we want to partner with FlowSync, exclusive marketing deal. We'll promote your app to all our remaining clients. David was quiet for a long moment. What's Pinnacle Marketing Solutions worth, Brad? What do you mean? I mean, if someone wanted to buy the company, what would it cost? David, we're not for sale. Everything's for sale, Brad. You taught me that. Another long pause. Probably around $3 million, maybe less given our current situation. David smiled, watching the San Francisco Bay sparkle in the afternoon sun. "I'll call you back in a week." He hung up and returned to the conference room, where $20 million in funding was waiting for his signature. That evening, David Chen signed the largest Series A funding round in FlowSync's history. By morning, he would have enough money to scale FlowSync nationwide, but he had something else in mind first, something that would bring his journey full circle. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. Sometimes the best revenge is buying the building where people used to laugh at your dreams, and then walking into that break room as their new boss. The phone call to Brad Morrison was scheduled for Monday morning, and David Chen had an offer that Pinnacle Marketing Solutions couldn't refuse. Monday, October 14th, 2020, 18 months after being humiliated in a corporate break room, David Chen walked through the glass doors of Pinnacle Marketing Solutions, not as a desperate employee, but as its new owner. The look on Brad Morrison's face when he realized who had just bought his company, priceless. But what David was about to announce to his former tormentors would be even better. The Pinnacle Marketing Solutions office looked smaller than David remembered. The same grey carpeting, the same motivational posters on the walls, the same break room where his dreams had been turned into a punchline. But now, David wore a Tom Ford suit that cost more than his old monthly salary. His confidence wasn't borrowed from energy drinks and desperation. It was earned through late nights, brilliant code, and the vindication of helping 50,000 small businesses run more efficiently. Jessica Kim stood beside him, along with FlowSync's new head of acquisitions. Behind them, two lawyers carrying briefcases that contained the purchase agreement for Pinnacle Marketing Solutions. "David?" Monica from HR was the first to recognize him. "David Chen? Is that really you?" Within minutes, a crowd had gathered, the same faces that had circled him 18 months ago, but now their expressions were completely different. Confusion, disbelief, and slowly dawning horror as they realized what was happening. "Hello, everyone," David said, his voice calm and professional. "I'd like to introduce myself. I'm David Chen, founder and CEO of FlowSync Technologies. As of this morning, I'm also your new boss." The silence was deafening. FlowSync has just acquired Pinnacle Marketing Solutions for $2.8 million in cash. Brad Morrison pushed through the crowd, his face red with embarrassment and rage. "This is impossible. David, you can't just... You were a junior analyst. You made PowerPoint presentations." "You're right, Brad. I did make PowerPoint presentations. I was good at it too, remember? You told me to stick with what I was good at." David gestured to the FlowSync team behind him. "So I did. I stuck with what I was good at, building things that actually help people." Rebecca Martinez, who still worked there despite the layoffs, stepped forward. "David, we were just joking around that day. We didn't mean..." "Oh, you meant it," David interrupted gently. "And that's okay. You were probably right. My UI design. Did look amateur. The name FlowSync probably wasn't the catchiest, and competing with Salesforce seemed impossible." He smiled. "But you know what you were wrong about. You were wrong about me giving up." "Here's what's going to happen," David continued, addressing the entire office. "FlowSync is going to honor all existing Pinnacle contracts. Nobody's getting fired for what happened in the break room that day." Visible relief spread through the crowd. "However, this company is going to change. We're no longer a traditional marketing agency. We're becoming FlowSync's Small Business Success Center. You're all going to learn to help small businesses implement automation solutions." He paused, letting that sink in. "Those of you who want to be part of this transformation are welcome to stay. Those who don't can take a generous severance package and find opportunities elsewhere." David walked over to the break room and gestured for everyone to follow. 18 months ago in this room I was humiliated. I was made to feel small, stupid, and worthless. He stood at the exact table where he'd been mocked. That humiliation was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it taught me that the only opinion that matters is the opinion of the people you're actually trying to help. He pulled out his phone and showed a text message. "This morning, Maria Gonzalez, you remember the taco place owner down from my old apartment, sent me this. David, FlowSync has changed my life. I'm opening 3 new locations this year because I can actually manage my business instead of drowning in it. Thank you for not giving up on your crazy app." FlowSync now serves 127,000 small businesses across North America. We're valued at $1.2 billion. We employ 450 people who wake up every day knowing their work makes real businesses more successful. David looked directly at Brad Morrison. "Brad, you asked me once if I really thought I could compete with Salesforce. The answer is no. I don't compete with Salesforce. I serve the customers they ignore." He gestured around the office. "And now, instead of laughing at people's dreams in break rooms, you're all going to help make those dreams come true." 6 months later, the Austin Business Journal ran a cover story. From startup mockery to billion-dollar success, how Chen built FlowSync into Texas's fastest-growing tech company. The photo showed David in the renovated Pinnacle office, now buzzing with activity as former traditional marketers helped small business owners implement automation solutions. In the corner of the photo, barely visible, was the old Breakroom. Now converted into a collaboration space with a plaque on the wall. Great ideas often sound crazy to people who think small. Brad Morrison had taken the severance package and moved to Dallas. Rebecca Martinez became FlowSync's head of customer success and loved her new role. Monica from HR now ran FlowSync's small business education programs, and David kept a photo on his desk from that first day back at Pinnacle. Not because he wanted to remember his revenge, but because he wanted to remember the lesson. Sometimes the people who laugh at your dreams are really just announcing their own limitations, and sometimes the best response to "you can't do that" isn't an argument. It's a billion-dollar company.